Hi there. Today we're going to be making the Seaside Blanket. This blanket uses single crochets and bobble stitches to make rows of waves inspired by the ocean. This video tutorial is going to cover everything you need to know, from the materials you need to how to make each stitch and the instructions for every row of the blanket. But if you do like to have written instructions, that's also available at the link in the description. For this blanket, I'm using Caron cotton cakes, which is a medium weight cotton blend, and I chose to use this variegated blue color, which is called Wild Blueberry. I'll also need my 5mm H hook and a pair of scissors for cutting the ends, and a yarn needle for weaving in those ends. The amount of yarn that you need will be dependent on how big you want your blanket to be. So I've included a formula over here to the left to help you estimate the total yardage that you will need based on the final length and width of your blanket in inches. Now that we've gathered all our materials, we can go ahead and get started with our foundation chain. So first, we're going to make a slip knot and place that loop on our hook. And then we'll start making the chain. So to make a chain, you yarn over and then pull that yarn through the loop on your hook. And that's 1. Yarn over, pull through, that's 2. Yarn over, pull through, that's 3. And then we're going to repeat that for the entire width of the blanket. And the total number of chains that you have should be a multiple of 30 plus 2 more. So that could be 32, 62, 92, 122, 152. Mine's going to be 152. And whatever multiple of 30 you use, that's how many wave peaks you'll have going across your blanket. So with 152, I'm going to have a total of 5 wave peaks going across my blanket. Once you finish your chain, we're going to start working row 1, which is to single crochet in each chain across, starting in the second chain from the hook. So if you look closely at your chain, you can see little bumps going across, and each bump is 1 chain. So we'll be working not in that first one up against our hook, but in the next one. So to make a single crochet, I'm going to take my hook and insert it into that second chain from the hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over again and pull through both loops that are on my hook, and that's 1 single crochet. So I'm going to just repeat that all the way across in each chain. Insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We've made 2 single crochets now. For the third one, we insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through both loops on the hook. And we do that all the way across. So you can see now we have the written instructions up, and single crochet is abbreviated as SC, and chain is abbreviated as CH. So those are abbreviations that you're going to see all throughout the rest of this pattern. As you come to the end of row 1, you should have 1 less single crochet than the total number of chains that you made. So since I had 152 chains, I'm going to have 151 single crochets. And once you finish that row, you can go ahead and flip your work over, and we're ready to start row 2. For row 2, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work single crochets all the way across again. The only difference here is that now, instead of working into the chain, we're going to be working into the tops of the single crochets we just made. So you can see that there are little V shapes at the top of each stitch, and we're going to be placing our hook underneath both loops of that V. So starting in the very first one, I'm going to insert my hook and then yarn over and pull up a loop and yarn over and pull through both loops to make my single crochet. And I'll repeat that all the way across. And I'll have the same number of stitches as row 1. So for me, that will be 151 single crochets. Row 2 is also the first row of our wave repeat that we'll be working through. So we'll work through rows 2 through 25 together, and then those rows will be repeated to make the rest of the blanket. Rows 3, 4, and 5 are going to be worked the same as row 2. So I'm going to start out row 3 with a chain 1, and then single crochet all the way across again. As I was working through the third row, I got to the first color change in my yarn, so you can see it's gone from this really light blue to a more medium blue, and we're starting to get a striping effect, which is really fun. And now I'm going to move on to my fourth row, which again is just a chain 1 at the start and then single crochets all the way across. I've just finished row 4. So now I'm going to turn my work again, chain 1 and work single crochets all the way across for row 5. And this is going to be the last row of single crochets before we introduce our bobble stitches. Once you finish up all your single crochets in row 5, we can turn our work and start working row 6. Row 6 starts off like our other rows with a chain and then a single crochet. And then we start working our bobble stitches. So to make a bobble stitch, we're going to be working just in the back loop of our stitches. So if you look at each of these V's, one side of the V is closer to you, one side is further away, and we're going to be working just into the one that's further away. That's where we're going to be inserting our hook. So to make this stitch, you're going to yarn over and then insert your hook into the back loop only, and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And then you're going to repeat that 4 more times, always working into that same back loop. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same space again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Last time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And now at this point, you should have 6 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to finish the bobble stitch, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops that are on your hook. And that is 1 bobble. And then we'll follow that with a single crochet in the next stitch. Now from the side that you're working on, the bobble stitch doesn't look like much, but if you turn it over, you can see that it's raised from the rest of your work, creating a little bubble in your crochet. You'll see in the written instructions that that bobble stitch is abbreviated as 5DCBLOB, which stands for 5 double crochet back loop only bobble, but we're just mostly calling it a bobble stitch. And you'll also see that the bobble and single crochet is enclosed within asterisks. And when you see a stitch sequence within those asterisks, you know that that sequence will be repeated. So in this case, we're going to repeat that bobble single crochet sequence 15 times. So we've already done it once, and then we'll do it 14 more times. So we'll go through the second repeat of that slowly together again. So to make the bobble, we yarn over, insert our hook into the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into the same back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And then last time we will yarn over, insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And now we have 6 loops on the hook, so we will yarn over and pull through all 6 of those loops to finish our bobble stitch. And then we will single crochet in the next stitch. So that was 2 repeats of that bobble single crochet sequence, and we'll continue that until we've done all 15. Once you've made your 15 bobbles and single crochets, you're going to repeat the entire sequence in the brackets until you get to the end of the row. So anytime in this pattern we have a sequence of stitches in brackets that's being repeated, it's going to be a sequence of 30 stitches. So the number of times you work through the instructions in the brackets in any given row is going to align with the multiple of 30 that you used when you were deciding how long you needed to make your chain. Since the number of chains I made was 30 times 5 plus 2 to get to 152, I'm going to repeat the sequence in the brackets a total of 5 times. This row is going to take a little bit longer than you might be used to, since these bobble stitches are essentially making 5 stitches in one space. But by the end of the row, you should be really good at bobbles. And not all the rows are going to take this long, because we're going to have the bobbles spread out more as we work through the wave and get to that peak. After all those bobbles in row 6, we'll have a row of single crochets for row 7. So we start that with a chain 1, and then we work single crochets in each stitch across. And in this pattern, you'll see that there will always be a row of single crochets between any of our bobble rows. Row 8 is going to be the same as row 6. So we chain and single crochet in the first stitch. And then we have the alternating bobble stitch and single crochet 15 times. And then we repeat that bobble single crochet sequence that's within the brackets until we get to the end of our row. For row 9, we chain 1 and then single crochet in each stitch across. For row 10, we'll start with a chain and a single crochet in the first stitch. And then we'll work through the instructions in the brackets, which are 5 single crochets, and then alternating bobble and single crochet 10 times, and then 5 more single crochets. Once you finish those stitches, you'll repeat that entire sequence that's in the brackets until you get to the end of the row. I've just finished the 10th row, and by now we've had some time to practice making our single crochets, making our bobble stitches, and making sense of the written instructions. So I'm going to leave you to work through the rest of the rows at your own pace, and there will be written instructions and photos to guide you, and then I'll jump back in at the end to go over the finishing details. I've worked through 10 sets of waves, so now I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving at least a 6-inch tail so I can weave it in. And then I'm going to pull it through the loop to tie off. The last thing left to do is to weave in the ends at the start and end of the project. So I'm going to thread my yarn needle, and then I'll work the tail into the stitches at the end of my blanket. So I'll just go underneath the stitches and pull the yarn through, and then I'll work back and forth a couple times to make sure that the tails don't come out. Once you feel like your tail is secure, you can pull it really tight and then cut right up against the crochet and then stretch it back out to how it looks normally. Once you've sewed in your ends, you've officially completed your Seaside Blanket.